Hi people, so for our first video, I'm going to talk about adding and subtracting fractions with unlike denominators. Now, our first fraction here that I'm going to talk about is 3/5 plus 1/3. And the very first thing that you'll notice is that they both do not have the same denominator. So here's what 3/5 would look like as a model. 3 1/5 pieces together like that, and then 1/3 would look like this, okay? And even if you have the pieces there, it's still hard to wrap your brain around how we would add this together, okay? However, we may need to convert one or both of these fractions so that it has a common denominator. How do we do that? Well, what we're going to do first is, this is the way that I like to do it to organize adding and subtracting fractions. I'm going to draw a line down the middle here, and I'm going to cut this other side in half. Okay, so I have fractions right here, and I have a step here. This is going to be our third step, so I'm going to label this 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, and I'll tell you why this doesn't have a line here in a few. All right, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to try to find the least common multiple of both of these denominators here. So I'm going to take 5 and 3, and I'm going to pull it over here. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to write my multiples down until I find the smallest one that they both have in common, or the LCM, least common multiple. All right, so I'm just going to test out a few numbers. So I'm going to go ahead and start. So 5, 10, 3, 6, 15, 9, I check. They don't have anything in common yet. 20, 12, 25, 15, I see it. And the very first number that you come across, that is the one that you can use, okay? And if you are really good with your multiplication facts, you will know that, oh, 3 and 5, they have 15 in common. So you may already have that ready to roll, okay? So we're going to take 15 and we're going to convert these fractions, all right? So the first thing we're going to do is take this 3/5 and we're going to multiply this 5 down here to create a 15. So, and if you don't have that knowledge at the top of your head of what 5 times what equals 15, you can just look over here. 1, 2, 3. All right, so 5 times 3 equals 15. Anything that we do with the denominator here, we have to do with the numerator, okay? So 5 times 3 and 3 times 3. I'm going to draw my arrow. This is where that line not being there comes into play, and I'm going to solve it. So 3 times 3 is 9, and 5 times 3 is 15. Next thing we're going to do is our 1/3. Now our 1/3, 3, we're going to try and make that into a 15, so we're going to multiply the 3 by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times 5. Anything you do on the bottom, you do on the top, and go ahead and solve. So 1 times 5 is 5. 3 times 5 is 15. Now we have common denominators, and we're able to do the math here and solve it. Now, with fractions, you know, we do not need to add these denominators up, so that is just going to stay a 15. At the top here, 9 plus 5, that's going to be 14. Now, this is a proper fraction, okay, because the numerator is less than the denominator. If it was an improper fraction, you would also need to convert it. But for this particular problem, we don't need to do that. So here is our answer for this step. Now, the fourth step is where we would check for simplifying. Now, like I said, we are not quite there with simplifying, at least for my 5th grade class. So we're going to stop right here for this, okay? And in the next video, we'll talk about what we would do in this 4th box here. All right, let's go ahead on to another problem. Maybe I'll pick one that has where we convert. All right, for this next problem, we're going to do 4/5 plus 8/10. I'm going to label my steps and draw my line. I'm going to check first. Now, of course, if these two denominators were the same, you wouldn't have to fill all this out. But I already saw the denominators weren't the same. I started my chart. Now I'm going to go ahead and take my 5 and my 10 over here and pull it over. Now, like I said, if you already know your multiples really well, you may already know the answer to this. The answer is going to be 10. All right, so you can actually use one of them already, so you don't have to change both of them. Okay, so 10 is the least common multiple here, so we can use it. So that means, friends, that we can just put this 8, 10 down here. We are done. We don't have to convert that. For this 4/5, though, we do. So 5 times what equals 10? 5 times 2. Anything you do on the bottom, you do at the top. That is going to change. 4 times 2 is 8. 5 times 2 is 10. All right, so now we have 8 tenths plus 8 tenths, which means we have 16 tenths. Now, like I said up at the problem above, if this is a proper fraction, then you just move on to the next step. But this is an improper fraction, so you're going to go ahead and convert it, okay? So 16 tenths, all right? So the way that you do this, friends, and I can draw it out for you, all right? You think about how many wholes can I make here, okay? Like how many 10 tens can I make, all right? So you can, so far, you can make 1 10 over 10. That would equal 1 whole. The next one, all right, so you have to think you're at 10. How many more to get to 16? Well, 10 to 16 would be 6, and the denominator stays the same. So the other way that you could write this is 1 whole and 6 tenths. Now, this one is a really good one to simplify, but like I said, I'm going to wait until my second video because I want you guys to get these first few steps down and then we will simplify. All right, friends? Try a couple at home and see if you can do it.